ரொம்ப நல்லா வந்திருக்கு மேடம்.
அந்த தாயார் வந்து பெருமாளுக்கு தான்
18/11/2015 மேடம் பாலாலயம் பண்ணது. ஸோ 2016 ஆன்வர்ட்ஸில் அந்த ஒர்க் ப்ராக்ரஸ்.
2015 லாஸ்ட்ல டிசம்பர்ல முதல் சந்திக்கை இந்த அவங்க வந்து பார்த்தேன். அப்போ இப்பெல்லாம் நல்லா பண்ணியிருக்கேன். ஆனால் ஒரு விஷயம் இருக்கு, அந்த ஸ்ரீகோவில் இது டோர் அது வந்து நீங்கள் கொஞ்சம் பார்க்கணும். பிகாஸ் சம்மர் கிராக் இருந்தால் திரும்பி எலி பூனை எல்லாம் நுழைஞ்சு போட்டு ரொம்ப ப்ராப்ளம். சரி பண்ணிட்டேன். அதை நீங்கள் கொஞ்சம் இது பண்ணணும். அது மட்டும்தான். அண்ட் எனக்கு எல்லாருக்கிட்டையும் எனக்கு ஒரு காமனாக ஒரு ரிக்வெஸ்ட் இருக்கு. நீங்கள் எல்லாம் நல்லபடி ப்ரேயர் பண்ணுங்க. நாளைக்கு நல்லா நடக்கணும், நாளைக்கு நல்லா நாளைக்கு தேர் கிவிங் த விக்ரம் பேக் அது நல்லா நடக்கணும். திரும்பி பாலாலயத்தில் நல்லா போகணும். அதுக்கப்புறம் கும்பாபிஷேகம் சூப்பர் சூப்பர் மட்டும் நல்லா இல்லை, அவ்வளவு நல்லா இருக்கணும். அதுக்கு எல்லாரோட கோஆப்ரேஷன் இருக்கு. இந்த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வந்து வேலை பண்ண கைலாசம் அவங்க தானே. யார் என்ன சொன்னாலும் அவங்க தான் வேலை பண்ணிட்டேன் இல்லையா, உள்ள கேறி வேலை பண்ணது அவங்க தான். ஸோ அவங்க டீம். அதுக்கப்புறம் வேலை பண்ணும்போது பிரம்மதத்தன் திருமேனி அவங்க இப்போ இல்லை, அப்போ அவங்க இப்போ இல்லை, அவங்க தம்பி அதே பரம்பரையில வருது. தென் தந்திரிமார் இருக்கு. அண்ட் மாத்தூர் சுப்பிரமணியோட மனைவி அன்னபூர்ணேஸ்வரன் நான் கூப்பிடுவேன். அவங்க பேர் சோபனா. பட் அவ்வளவு சாதம் சோறு இது எல்லாம் போட்டிருக்கேன். எனக்கு அந்த அம்மா சாட்சால் இப்படி காணப்பட்ட அன்னபூர்ணேஸ்வரி தான். சதீஷன் பட்டதில் இருக்கு. அவங்க இது டீட்டெயில்ஸ் எல்லாம் சொன்னேன். ஸோ எல்லாரோடும் ஹெல்ப்பும் இதுவும் நீங்க டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் எவ்வளவு டிபார்ட்மெண்டோட தலை சாப்பிட்டேன்னு அவங்களுக்கே தெரியும்.
தனிப்பட்ட முறையில் செய்யவே முடியாது
சார். அப்போ அவங்கள நோட் பண்ணி அதில் யார் நம்ம அவரோட இன்வைட் பண்ணாமல் இதெல்லாம் ஃபார்மலாக இருந்தாங்க. அவங்க அந்த அம்மா வந்து சொன்னாங்க இல்லை, அவங்க அந்த
மேடம்.
Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sattology means science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science or study of fake, lie or imagination. So today I'm going to have very, very special guest, the 12th descendant of the princess of Travancore, which is the whole Kerala today. Nowadays, it's just not one city. And also a royalty, real royalty. From India, and you have seen her many times on the channel, but today we are going to take you back in the history with the Thiruvattar Adi Kesava Temple. So without delay, let us welcome Lakshmi Nalapat. Namaskar.
Namaste Aditya, thank you for having me on your show.
Namaskar. No, you're always welcome. This is your show. We always love to have you always here. Tell me one thing. This temple is, as I'm speaking to you now, with some context now, I know I saw the videos, I saw the Garuda, and for the viewers, you will see all these videos you must have already seen by now, and then later on you will see more towards the end of the show. Towards the end of the video, you can check out those videos. And so this temple where is it located exactly in Tamil Nadu? Where is this temple located exactly?
This is in Kanyakumari district in Tamil Nadu.
Okay. And people can go to Trivandrum and go there, or
it is 55 kilometers from Thiruvantapuram, the capital of Kerala.
Yeah, Thiruvananthapuram. And one of the things which you told me about this temple, this is the same temple where Brahma Samhita was found by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yes.
And this is the same temple where Balram ji visited when he went for pilgrimage.
Yes.
It's still there and people are still worshipping it. So you went to inaugurate the temple because you helped it reconstruct.
Not exactly inaugurate the temple, because no human being can inaugurate the temple. It is already there. It's like it is as stupid as saying that Columbus discovered America.
That's right.
America was there long before Columbus was there, na? Yeah, I mean, Columbus made the West aware of a place like that, right?
That's right.
So in temples also, I think it's more or less the same thing. Both hai, I mean, it's there. It's your luck to be aware of it, to be made to be aware of it at the time when, the gods decide.
But you helped in renovating the temple and the deities. You actually helped right now. Help me renovate it.
Let me put it this way. Let me tell you a little bit about the back story of the temple.
Please.
There is a place called Kumbala.
Uh-huh.
It is in Kasargod district in Kerala. If you look at Kerala, it's a long strip of a state, right? It is at the northernmost end of Kerala. The story goes that there was a saint. There's a dispute about his name. Some people say his name was Vilva Mangalam Swamiyar. Some people say that his name was Divakara Muni. Now, this saint used to do his puja. And there was a small child, 3-year-old kid, boy, male child, who used to help him, he used to play at his puja, etc., etc., etc. And Vilvamangalam was very fond of, let's stick with Vilvamangalam right now. Vilvamangalam was very fond of this child. One day, this child picked up the Salagrama. Now, Salagramam, as you know, it's a natural stone. It is a representation of Vishnu. Vishnu became a stone because Vrinda cursed him. Vrinda was a Pativrata, totally chaste wife, and to kill her husband, Mahavishnu had to destroy the wife's chastity. So he came as Vrinda's husband, in the form of Vrinda's husband, and he destroyed his chastity. And then Vrinda cursed him, saying that you're heartless, you're like stone. So may you become stone. And that is how Salagramam equals Mahavishnu. Now, this child picked up the Salagramam which Vilvamangalam Swamiyar was worshipping, and he put it in his mouth. And Vilvamangalam Swamiyar got furious at him. He pushed the child away, using the back side of his left hand. And he said, "Go, get lost. I don't want you around." Then the story goes that this child ran away. And as he was running away, Vilvamangalam saw this great light emanating from this child. At that point, he realized that this is no ordinary child, but it is some divine manifestation. And he heard this child shout out over his shoulder, "Now, if you want to see me, you will have to see me in Anantan Kadu." Anantan Kadu means the forest of the serpent, Adishesha or Ananta. So then Vilvamangalam was very upset, obviously, because he inadvertently, unknowingly, there was a Mahavishnu playing in his house, playing with him, doing puja to Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu sitting next to Vilvamangalam and doing puja to Mahavishnu. It's such a wonderful, it's such a wonderful situation. And then what happened is Vilvamangalam started hunting for this child. So he kept on, he wandered south, and he kept on asking, where is Anantagada? Because I have to find out, because he said he will meet me in Anantagada. So he wandered all around Kerala. He was really, it was a very tough journey, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. So finally, he landed up in present Trivandrum or Tiruvananthapuram. That means the place of Ananta. And he reached there, and then he heard this woman. This child was, small baby was crying, and he heard the mother say, "Shut up, otherwise I'll throw you into this Anantan garden." So he was in ecstasy, and he went to the lady and said, "Amma, where is this Ananta garden? You said you're going to throw your child in Ananta garden. Where is it?" So the lady said, "This one, the forest right here is Ananta garden." So Vilvamangalam prostrated this woman, and he walked into Ananta garden. The story is that a huge tree fell, and that was in the shape of Mahavishnu reclining on a snake. His shape was so vast that his head was in Thiruvattar, which is being renovated now. His head was in Thiruvattar, his torso, body was in Thiruvananthapuram, Trivandrum, and his feet was in Thirupapur. Now, Adi Kesava Perumal is made of 16,008 salagramas, covered by a very complex compound made of 64 elements. Sri Padmanabha Swami in Thiruvananthapuram is made out of 12,008 salagramas, covered by the same Kadusharkara. Vigrahams or idols are made of many materials, metal. You can have pure silver or panchaloham, mixture of 5 metals, wood, darubimbam, mrinmayam, that is clay of earth. And then you have something called the lepya bimbam. Lepya bimbam means idol which has been, on which many layers of it's like your human skin. Okay? Many layers of medicinal substance called Kadusharkara is put. Adi Kesava is a lepya bimbam. No work has been done for more than 400 odd years in this, in the main sanctum sanctorum or the Sri Guru. Aditya?
So one of the interesting stories which you said, Bill Mangal, and in the North
I can't
India,
hear you.
yeah, in the North
Okay, I
India,
can't hear you.
can you hear me now? Is it better?
Very faintly.
I'll
Very
speak loudly.
faintly.
I'll speak loudly. So
Yeah.
in the all the traditions of India, the same story is told. All the traditions of India, same story of Bill Mangal Thakur is told.
Ah.
And Bill Mangal Thakur is one of the, he wrote Govinda Bhashya also on Bhagavad Puran. And he wrote the Bhagavad Puran, and also people who are from Bengal and all over India and the world, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discovered Brahma Samhita here, 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita. It has 100 chapters, but only the 5th chapter was discovered here. It has got around 72 shloka in that. And of Brahma Samhita, that is the only writing actually written by Brahma. There is nothing else Brahma has written except that Brahma Samhita. So, beautiful story of how the, in the temples, actually Shalagram is considered to be always installed, like Pran Pratishtha is always there in Shalagram. So any deity made with Shalagram is considered that he is living. He's just living.
Correct.
So tell me one story. Like, is there any story of Balram also being told in this temple? That how Balram visited during Mahabharat war here?
Because Balram was against taking sides in the Kurukshetra war between the Pandavas and Kauravas, because both of them were his students, right? So during the Kurukshetra 18 days, if I'm not mistaken, of Kurukshetra war, Balrama left Kurukshetra and he went on a pilgrimage throughout India. And there is a reference to both Adi Kesava as well as Padmanabha Swami temple. The reference is Syanandura in Padmanabha Swami temple. Actually, both the Sri Padmanabha Swami temple and Adi Kesava temple are extremely connected. Now I'll tell you how this whole, how I got involved in this repair. It's a very personal thing for me. It's also a great blessing. In 2011, on the 8th of August 2011, there was something called an Ashtamangalya Deva Prashnam in the Thiruvananthapuram Sri Padmanabha Swami temple. What they say about the genesis of temples is that there is divinity in everywhere, in everything. In fact, our belief is that there is divinity in stone, in both living and non-living beings. God is everywhere. He's omnipresent, omnipotent, etc., etc. But still, when somebody, normally what happens is a person gets a vision of a certain deity, a certain temple, a certain form of worship. He then goes in search of a priest who will fructify this idea. And that person who does this is normally, in latter years, he has come to be referred to as the Tantri, okay, or the chief priest. I mean, it's a very loose translation, does not do justice to the word. Now, in Padmanabha's, what they say is that if the person who takes care of the temple, or takes care of the temple, please mind my words, not takes care of the deity, because I believe it is a deity who takes care of the person who takes care of the temple. Now, if the person who takes care of the temple has doubts as to how to go ahead, then he asks the Tantri. If the Tantri is not sure of what to do, in Kerala, I'm talking about Kerala, there is a person called the Alvancheri Tambrakal. He is roughly equivalent to the Pope. He's the head authority of Hindu Brahminical temple worship in Kerala. Now, if the Tambrakal is also not very sure, then you have something called an Ashtamangalya Deva Prashnam. It is a very elaborate ritual where 5-6 astrologers are involved. A child is involved. The child picks up the gold and puts it in one of the Rashis. We don't know which Rashi. There are 12 Rashis, and taking the reading of that moment, you sort of decide what is to be done, what has to be done, etc., etc. Now, in 2011, on the 8th of August, there was an Ashtamangalya Deva Prashnam in Padmanabha Swami Temple, Trivandrum. At that time, it was very interesting. They said one of the things which they said is that Padmanabha Swami is very, he's very worried. He's not at all happy about the situation in the Adi Kesava Temple. No, Adi Kesava is not in a good condition. His idol is broken, and it's broken because of age, and that has to be repaired. It is a must. So of course everybody sort of nodded their heads, whatever it is, and then in 2014, because till 2014, till the end of Uttarayanam of 2014, my Kali temple, there was a lot of work going on there. And of course, my first commitment is to her. Somewhere I feel that she has, the 1,000-arm mother, she has carried me in her 2 arms, taken me to Adi Kesava. And, she's the one who's held me like that. And as for the renaissance of Adi Kesava, there are so many people involved. I am just a spokesperson right now. Okay. The first person is the head of Bangalore ISKCON of Hare Krishna. His name is Madhu Pandit Das. He is a native of Thiruvattar. He repaired the entire Sri Krishna shrine. He has got a new 70-foot teak wood tree from the Kerala forest for the flagstaff. He is also covering them with gold. One of the pictures is of that, of the gold covering, which will cover this 70-foot flagstaff or dwajam. He has done wonderful work, absolutely wonderful work. Then there was a gentleman called Sridhar, businessman. He started the process by doing another Ashtamangalya Prashnam in Thiruvattar. Then, interestingly, the idols at Kumbala in Kasargod, where Vilvamangalam came from, okay, those idols were broken again because of age. So the people, and I think one of the Shankaracharyas, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not very sure, I think it is the Kanchi Shankaracharya, made Panchaloha Vigrahams. He remade the whole thing, okay, in Panchaloha. But it was not working out, a lot of problems in the temple, etc., etc., etc. And so then they did an Ashtamangala Prashnam there. And there's a gentleman called Brahmamangalam Subramani. He was the one who was chosen to do the Vigrahams there. The Vigrahams in Kumbala, they had to do it from start. What you do is that you make a skeleton out of a wood called karingali. It's exactly it's like a human skeleton. Then out of coconut fiber, you have to do it with your hand. Okay, you have to string it out. You have to pull it out. There are 72,000 coconut fiber nerve endings, and then there are 7 layers of this Kadasharkara. I'll just give you an example of just one material of Kadasharkara. Okay? You have to get a flower called Techi, which blooms only in winter. No other flower, no other Techi poo, neither in summer nor after the monsoons will work. You have to get sand, soil, okay, from the hoof of an ox, from soil where an elephant has gored with his tusks, soil where the old-fashioned Balram, the plow, the old-fashioned plow has gone, then where wild pigs have walked. So collecting the material takes 1 year minimum. Okay, then you have to take some of these materials, dry them in sunlight, powder them, put them in a medicinal kashayam. They call it kashayam. It's a medicinal in a vat. They make this medicines. Put the whole thing inside. So it becomes a paste of the consistency you can decide. You make a paste. Then you again put it in the sun, dry it, powder it, and this is applied on the Vigraham with a mango tree leaf. It's not your hand, it's not a paintbrush. You dip a mango tree leaf in this and gently put a layer. Okay? Imagine putting makeup on a baby's face. It's like that. It's so tender. So you have to be so careful, to be so gentle. And then you have to let it dry. After one coating, okay, it's not 7 coatings per se. It is many coatings make one of the 7. So when the whole thing is dry, it takes 25 days minimum for it to dry. It's in the sanctum sanctorum. You cannot have heat in it. You cannot have wind in it. You cannot put blowers and dry. It has to be air dry. If there are rains, as there were rains, there were floods, the humidity in the air will affect this. And then which means it's not just 25 days, you have to keep waiting even further. So this was such a painstaking thing. This was done in Kumbala by Brahmamangalam Subramani and his son Kailasan. We were very fortunate to have Kailasan come here in Thiruvattar and do it. And the Vastu expert was from the renowned Nambudiri family called Vela Parambu. They are extremely knowledgeable and extremely strict. There is no compromise. Okay? If Kailasan tells him, I want this material, they say, now get this material. If you don't get this material, we'll wait till we get the material. There is no compromise. There is no cutting corners. You see? And the person who started the work was Vedaparamba Brahmadattandirimeni. Unfortunately, he passed away. His younger brother, who's equally erudite, his name is Chitrabhanu, Vedaparamba Chitrabhanu. He is our Vastu expert. He is extremely knowledgeable. He is also very soft-spoken. He's very firm. He will not compromise, but he says it in such a nice, sweet way. Okay. And the person who, and then what happened is in Thiruvattar, there are 3 vigrahams. One is the big 22 feet long vigraham. You've seen the picture. Now he and they, there are the ayuthas, the weapons. There is Mathukaidapa at his feet. And now that those idols cannot be taken out. They're fixed, they're permanent in the sanctum sanctorum. So work had to happen in the sanctum sanctorum. Now there is a methodology of worship called Bahu Bhera Vidhanam. Bahu Bhera Vidhanam means there is this big Mula Vigraham, original Vigraham. There are Vigrahams on which Abhisheka is done. And Archanas are done. Then there is a Vigraha which is taken out for the Ulsava, Tiruvida. Tiruvida it's called. It's a procession. It's an annual, biannual festival. That is when the deity comes out of the sanctum sanctorum and normally goes around the temple. Sometimes he goes out for Veta, hunting of evil. Then he goes for Ara to have a bath. In some places, there is something called Patna Darshanam, which means the deity goes around the city. Because in ancient India, it was always a deity which ruled a place. He or she was the lord of the place. Everybody else was subservient to that. So keeping those traditions, they do this. So the Archana Bimbam or the Abhisheka Bimbam and the Utsava Bimbam were shifted from the main sanctum sanctorum to a side shrine, which is called the Bala Alayam. Bala means small, Alayam means house. So it's like a small house. So he's staying in a reduced circumstance. And then Kailasan and his team of people started work on the Kadusharkara Mula Vigraha. What is very, very interesting is that there are 2 families which are the Tantris of Thiruvattar Adi Kesava Perumal. One is the Manadikara Mathur Tantris, the other is the Atyarmana Tantris. The one person who has really physically broken his back and stood there and prayed and prayed and prayed for this to happen is Mathur Subramaniaru. He is one of the Tantris. He made sure that nobody enters the sanctum sanctorum unless he is personally there. He used to stand there and he used to watch. What is it that's being done? He used to stand there and pray. They would enter the place. They would, from their house, they would have breakfast. They would have bath. They would finish their normal prayers. Go to the Thiruvattar. The name of the place, Thiruvattar, is a place surrounded with rivers. R means river. Thiruvatta means circle. So Thiruvattar is a place which is circled by rivers. So he and Kailasan and his team used to go to the river, have a bath, enter the sanctum sanctorum at around 9 o'clock and come out at 3 or 4 o'clock. Not a sip of water, nothing to eat. Because if you had to answer a call of nature, then you have to go out and have a bath again. Right. I have seen these people coming out almost like drunks coming out of a bar. Like they're staggering because they've been working. You can imagine, and in this heat, there is no ventilation in the sanctum sanctorum. There's just the 3 doors. They come sweating. And Mathur Subramaniaru, except for one day when his nephew got married, he was in the sanctum sanctorum every day. That is total devotion to Adi Kesava.
Very nice to hear that all the temples collaborated. Like the Madhu Pandit. Madhu Pandit is a good friend of mine. So the temples collaborated to build it. And also the people who worked on the temple were also not Brahman, you told me. Which is also very striking.
No, actually that's very interesting because people say that only Brahmins can go into the sanctum sanctorum. Okay, unless of course there are temples where the puja is not done by Brahmins, but normally in a temple where the puja is done by Brahmins, they do not let other castes enter the temple, enter the sanctum sanctorum. Sri Kailasan is not a Brahmin. He is an Ashari. Ashari is Shilpi or artisan. You can call it caste, but basically, if you look at our traditions, the really old traditions, you were not born into a caste. You graduated into a caste, much like you become a engineer or a doctor or an architect or whatever. So Kailasan is certainly not a hereditary Brahmin, but he has had the fortune which is not available to many Brahmins, which is to go and actually work in so many temples and repair so many deities. And one of the very interesting things which I was witness to in this, because I've been seeing the Moola Vigraha or the main deity of Adi Kesava over a period of time, right? At different, when I first saw the Vigraham, there were big patches on the. If you see the picture, because there are three circles of Ananta, three loops of Ananta, and pieces were broken. You could see it with your naked eye. There were big white patches, and this is one of the most interesting things which Mathur Subramani and Kailasan told me. There was a crack on his waist, and you could not put any stick to see how deep it is. So they poured medicine, waited for 25 days, poured medicine, waited for 25 days, poured medicine, waited for 25 days, and this thing went on till the gap was filled and it had reached the level of the rest of the body. So in the Kadasharkara, the advantage of Kadasharkara is it is one of the it is a material which is very good at transmitting spiritual vibrations. The problem with Kadasharkara is because it is so difficult to make, difficult to maintain, and the process is 100% based on nature. Human beings have no role except to make the Kadasharkara, the different components of Kadasharkara, and put it onto the Vigraha. But everything else, the materials are all from nature. The curing is also from nature. The application is human, but the drying is from nature. So nobody can actually interfere. So you can only do, and which is why when somebody asks you for a time limit for a Kadasharkara Vigraha, it's very difficult to say. Very, very difficult. You can't predict it. You can't say that, okay, now if it is a normal, even if it is cast out of metal or if it is carved out of wood, you can have a sort of idea, right? This you can't. And one of the things which I will never forget is that Kailasan, Mathur Subramanian, and all of them are coming out, and they have ground kashayam, and their hands are red. Okay, and the first thing I asked Mathur Tirumeni is, how come your hands are red? Because you're not applying the thing, you're just standing there. So he said, he came up to me, showed me his hands. When he came up to me, the pungency of the smell of his hands. Okay, he had put his hands in this compound, he had washed it, then he had come home. I was waiting at his home, in his house. And the pungency of that brought tears to my eyes. And he told me, when Kailasan is dipping his hands into this compound for the sake of Adi Kesava, I also did it. So that is devotion of an exceptional kind. There is one more person who, according to me, is completely unknown, but who actually deserves 1,000% credit for this. And that is Mathur Subramaniaru's wife, Shobhana. Her name is Shobhana. She cooked and she fed all of us, not just once, not just 1 week, not just 1 month. This work started in 2015 December. January, sorry. No, sorry, 2016 January. It is now 2022 June, right? It was not an everyday work, but whenever the workmen were there, whenever devotees were there, people would just turn up in Mathur Subramaniaru's house, expecting, rather unfairly according to me, to be fed. But their expectations were never, ever, ever, ever let down. Another person is a very young person, but he's a Pandit beyond his age. His name is Satish Bhattadiri. He is the one who set out what has to be done when Adi Kesava was shifting from the Moolalem, the main Sanctum Sanctorum, to the Balalem. So the number of people who have helped, people have gone and got, the gum of jackfruit tree. That's about 40 kilos of jackfruit tree gum. Somebody spoke to the chip manufacturers. You make jackfruit chips. Somebody spoke to the chip manufacturers in Palghat, in Calicut, in Kannur, and they would collect this, wind it around a stick and keep it. And, periodically people would go and collect it. My friend Anirudh Behel, he got 100 liters of Ganga Jal from Haridwar, because it's only when Ganga flows over Har Ki Pauri that she becomes Ganga. Till then she's Bhagirathi, she's Alknanda, whatever. She becomes Ganga only then. So we waited till the river came, when the river flowed beyond Haridwar, and we collected, big dabbas of Ganga Jal, and it was transported by train. And the number of devotees who have done so much, there were people who were praying there, reciting the Ramayana, reciting, just Hare Krishna, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. There were people like that. There were people reciting the Vishnu Sahasranamam. There were people who, who were specialists who used to recite the Rig, Yajur, and Samavedams. There were people who physically cleaned the temple. Okay? And by and large, it's not a modern monstrosity, which I call it, which is like lots of temples have been renovated and they're made of steel and glass and very ugly materials, which is not there in our history. There's one thing which is very, very sad, and that is that Madhu Pandit Das, he has covered the flagstaff with gold. He was asking the department, they were from department, can somebody take bits of the base of the Kodimaram, of the flagstaff, to a place called Atur, where he was doing the electroplating. Because he said, I am not going to come and take this and go there and do it, because the next thing will be, oh, Madhu Pandit has stolen gold from the temple. So he didn't want that. We asked the department. Department is still, the flagstaff has to be put on the 9th of July. Madhu Pandit he had the generosity of spirit to make new pieces of this, because the department wouldn't send the old piece for electroplating. The government of Tamil Nadu, on the other hand, has been very cooperative. They're very cooperative. They do not intend to interfere with religious rituals. They just want security. The security is pretty good. The function started yesterday with the handing over of the Vigraham. the Vigraham repaired by Kalahasan, witnessed by Vedaparamba Chitrabhanu Tirumeni to the Tantris. In Mathur Tantri's house, there is a big wooden box, and you can see decomposed pieces. Actually, at first it didn't make any sense. Nobody knew what this was. But then later on, we looked at it, and it was all pieces meant for the Kadisharkara. And Sri Kailasan did something wonderful, much like like school, college, or something like that. He made a list of the things required to make the Kadusharakara, to make the repairs. And all of us sat around Shobana, that is Mathur Subramania's wife's dining table. I call her Annapurneshwari because Annapurneshwari is the Indian goddess of food. She is actually a physically manifest Annapurneshwari. So we sat around her table. Actually, I'll tell you one thing also. One of the things I'm sure which all of us enjoyed as part of this, apart from the great, this is a blessing which comes, you have to be blessing after births and births of good deeds, ancestors' good deeds, gurus, and of course, as far as I'm concerned, my everything, my Mahakali. It's almost as if Mahakali came and, gave me Adi Kesava. And I will tell you one thing, I'm telling you openly, Aditya. Often I used to think, wow, look at me, how great I am. I am taking care of Adi Kesava. Wow, I'm such a something. And each time I felt, I used to, of course, I never used to talk about this because, I was being semi-diplomatic, which I am not. Aditya, you know me. So, but then I used to think to myself, wow, not bad. And every time that happened, that thought went through my mind. It is an immediate counter thought would come. And that has happened only with the blessings of Kali, because she would ask me, are you taking care of Adi Kesava, or is Adi Kesava taking care of you? And it's such a valid point. We talk about how Hindus are being sidelined in our own country, blah, 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 right? Where is it that you find two Hindus who do not have three opinions among themselves? And they're fighting. Each one is saying, I'm right. My way, my God, my religion. It's not. I'm sorry to tell you, it's not. There is a beautiful word called abhimanam. You're proud. You're proud. You're not egoistic. That is ahankaram. Ahankaram is when you think that you're, like without you, the world will not function. Without me, the world will go happily on. I will not be there. That is all. And this is something which I would generally like to tell everybody, because in this temple also there's a lot of, during this laborious process, a lot of unfortunate ego clashes. I am right. I am the one. I am doing all this. It should not be, because you're doing something for God. God has chosen you. You have not chosen God. God has been kind enough to say, okay, fine. See, my great uncle, Chitradanal Balarama Varma, he was actually the last Maharaja of Travancore, is one of the most pious people I've seen. And I don't think it's my personal love for him which would make me qualify him as a divine person. Yet, look at this. Maybe it is the miracle of Kalikalam. In the Manalikara, in the Mathur Manalikara family, there was a gentleman called K.V. Manalikara. There's no more. Chitradanal is also no more. At that time, the repair did not come to them. It came to us. See? So I used to go to Adi Kesava and say, Ennaiya inda gundu maamiye nee choose pannite, which means why is it, oh Lord, you've chosen this fat woman to do your work? You see, because it's, I mean, why is it that better qualified, greater people were there and they could not do it? It is not because, again and again I'm telling you, it is not because of our capability. It is because of the endless grace of Adi Kesava on all of us. You see, when we went to take water from Haridwar, the water was, we went by car, and the water was being brought by in a van, and the van, one of the wheels of the van sank in the sand. It was a very sandy place. Then 3, 4, 5 local people came and they put a wooden plank underneath it, and they pushed it, and the van got out and went back into the road, and then came to Delhi, and subsequently the water was brought here by train. But then we were talking among each other that, look, maybe they had some kind of debt run to Adi Kesava. Otherwise, see, completely somebody from Haridwar. So this whole thing has been not just a normal repair. Okay, it's not been a normal repair. Normal repairs, yes, I've seen, but this is something where, and there are days when we've all wept because of the delay, because of the misunderstandings between some people. Somebody, some people who were working thought that they were greater than God, and they started saying all kinds of horrible things about Mathur Subramanian, etc., etc., etc. It was very painful. It was very painful for him. It was very painful for me, because I was watching this is how a tantri should be. If there is repair in the sanctum sanctorum of a temple where X, whoever is the tantri has to be present there. That is his minimum responsibility. He cannot say, okay, fine, I'm the tantri, now you go and do what you want. Would you, for example, if your house is being painted, would you hand over the keys to the painters and walk off and say, okay, you do, I mean, I've chosen the color scheme, so do it? Would you do that? You wouldn't, right? So if you don't do it to a house, and when the tantri makes a claim that he is the greatest spiritual head of a temple, how can he not be physically present? Okay, you don't have to shove your hands into the acidic compound which Mathur Subramanian did. That he did it out of well, I would say it's an extra feeling which he had for Sri Adi Kesava. No, you don't have to do that, but you have to stand there. Ideally, you have to stand there and pray. Okay, you're not praying. Let's say you're playing with your mobile phone. At least you're there. You're in the sanctum sanctorum. You're not letting the sanctum sanctorum, because Garbhagriha, the most important part of a temple, is the Vigraham and the Garbhagriha. The model of a temple is that of a person lying down. The head is the Sri Kodu. The feet are the Gopuram, the towers, right outside. So unless, I mean, when you do something, please be serious about it. Otherwise, don't do it. Please don't do it, because you're doing disservice to Bhagwan. Aditya.
No, very devotional. And see, this is a seva of the love by the heart, not just by hands or legs or something. One thing very interesting which struck out, and for the audience I'll say, because most of the European commentators and historians, they usually say that the Shaivites and the Vaishnavites and the Shakta worshippers, they fight. And here we see a complete unity amongst everybody. Like for the higher purpose of Adi Kesava, everyone forgot where they come from. And I can see the Shiva Bhakta collaborating with Vishnu Bhakta, collaborating with Ma Bhakta. So what do you have to say on that?
Forget about people, Aditya. If you look at the picture of Adi Kesava, of the Sanctum Sanctorum, at his feet, you find Madhu and Kaidapa. Madhu and Kaidapa, are completely Shakteya. Adi Kesava, in this particular Vigraham of Adi Kesava is very interesting because I've seen a lot of reclining Vishnus. Vishnu reclining on Ananta. Many places. Srirangam, one of the most famous places I'm talking about. But here, well, there is a story that there is a demon called Keshi. And he had got the gift of immortality. So what happens is that in Thiruvattar, that's why he is called Kesava. The Mahavishnu there is called Adi Kesava. There is a demon called Keshi, and he cannot be killed. So Ananta ties him in 3 coils. He's bound. His torso, legs, etc. are bound. And Adi Kesava lies on top of the Ananta, which is wound around Keshi. Now, this is very interesting that you mentioned this, Aditya, because the 12 hands of the demons are free. Okay, they don't come within the coils of the Ananta. So they can create mischief of their own. Then you know what was done? One Shivalinga was placed in each hand. So there are 12 Shivalingas around Thiruvattar. And this is very, very interesting for Shivratri, which is a Shiva-centric festival, of course. For Shivratri, there is something called Shivalaya Otam. Shiva plus Alaya, house of Shiva. Otam means running. So at night, you have to go to all these 12 Shiva temples. And you know where you end your journey? At Thiruvattar with Adi Kesava. Now that is completely Shaivite, the Shivaratri journey. And the culmination is completely Vaishnavite. So the problem between Shaivites, Vaishnavites, Shakteyas, and earlier on, the Ganapatyas and the Shauryas and etc., was not actually between the deities or their customs. The problem was between their devotees. And I would even not say with their devotees. Okay, I would say the problem was with people who used religion for politics. So you see, it's a different thing to be pro Vaishnava or pro Shakteya. Okay. But when you're anti something, you say that, you don't say you're pro Vaishnava, you say that I'm anti Vaishnava, I'm a Shaivite. That doesn't work. See? So you're doing that not because you really believe in it, but you're doing that to provoke. Give you a little slap and see how you react. And of course, anybody who slapped normally reacts very badly. Then you give the second slap, and then before you know, it's a full-fledged war, which is happening in Hinduism everywhere. What has to happen? I think we need to make a drastic change of priorities. It is not my opinion or somebody else's opinion which counts. You look at the knowledge. You look at, okay, this has to be done. Then you look around and see who can do that. Now what is happening is, I am here. This is my opinion. I push it. Okay. That's not the way to do it. And then this stupid divisions between Shaivas and, if you go to Tamil Nadu, even now it's very sad, but it's true. If you wear a vibhuti or you wear the holy ash and you go to a Vishnu temple, they don't like it. They say, what is that on your forehead? What is that thing? Of course they know it is bhasma. But they ask you why? Why do you have that? And they say, oh, Shiva, he's a very, Vishnu is so aesthetic, he's so he's very beautiful, he's one of the most beautiful of gods. And then they say, like you have Vishnu who's so fragrant, he's so well dressed, he's so, he's very, very, very attractive. Why do you go to Shiva? Look at Shiva. Matted hair, wears leopard skin. He's got ash of corpses on him. He wears snakes instead of jewelry. I mean, why? Why, when there is a choice of Vishnu, why do you go to Shiva? This is something which I have myself faced this. And if you look at the word Hari in Sanskrit, it is Hara plus E. E is Bhagavati Devi. So Hari is basically Shiva Shakti. Only we are too stupid to realize that. We are sort of chopping them up. We're trying to chop up something which is a unity. It's one unit. It's an organic unity. It's like saying that, okay, fine, I'm going to chop off my hands or one of my hands because it's not my leg. It's as stupid as that. I mean, the argument is so stupid. Of course, it's not a leg. It's your hand. You can't do with your hand. I mean, you can't do without your hands, just as you can't do without your legs. It's not a substitute. It's not an either or, right? It's not a zero-sum equation. And actually, your version of divinity, your personal version of divinity, rises from what you think. If you think that your God is limited to this little thing, and if He gives one blessing to you and one blessing to your neighbor, and He gives 10 blessings to other people, then He runs out of blessings. Then you're in trouble. You're in deep trouble. But if you think that your God encompasses not just the universe as we know, but Akhilanda Kodi Brahmanda Nayagi. See, 1 crore, universes. If your God is like that, then you have no problem, because if she blesses you, she can bless me, she can bless the whole of India, she can bless the whole of Pakistan also, and there will be still blessings left behind, because she is like that. She's limitless. We are the ones who say, oh, Pakistan, you bless Pakistan, then you're not God. You're not my God. You see? Please, I don't think I'm sticking up for a lot of things which Pakistan does. I'm not in favor of, but I'm just giving you an example, because the most obvious, quote unquote, country which is not too friendly with India, to put it mildly, is Pakistan. Can a mother say that, okay, I'll take care of this child, but I won't take care of that child? You can be a very bad mother, of course. Lots of people who are very bad mothers. But generally, again, it's your God. Is your God an angry God? Is your God an unforgiving God? Is your God a hard God? Is He transactional, or is he or she? Are your divinities transactional? Okay, I will do this. I will give 101 coconuts to the Ganesha temple. But Ganesha, please do this for me. Of course, I'm telling you something very personal. Whatever I want, I will go and tell Kali. For the simple fact that I cannot tell, Joe Biden or Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan. I can't tell them and get it done. So I go and tell her. I go and tell her because I have no other person to ask. Lots of people say that if you are a true bhakt, you don't ask. You don't ask anything. God knows. Of course, God knows. That's what I tell her. I said, hello, Kali, you know this. You know that this has to be done. But I am telling you, because when I tell you, it makes me feel good. That's all. You could even put it in, psychotherapy terms if you want. Somewhere, okay, fine. It's okay. This is that. Because for me, divinity is very personal. It's not a concept somewhere, it's not what you read about, what you speak about. It's what is there, immediate. Okay? It's like the air you breathe. You can't discuss about the air you breathe, can you? You can discuss about the air you breathe while you're breathing. But as something distant from you, you can't. The greatest joy is that in 2022, okay, Kalikala, Prathame Pade of Kalikala, such a temple exists, number one. And it has been looked after more or less according to the Shastras. It's not a newfangled, okay, let's have marble, let's have granite, that's it. Forget about the deity inside. It's not been like that. All of us, whoever has been associated. There's somebody called Adi Kesava Temple. He was standing there looking after the whole thing, He was standing there physically looking at the work, looking after the work. Somebody called Nambudiri. I mean, the list is endless, okay? I'm just telling you people who have done much, much more than they will not talk about. They will not talk about. Mathur Subramaniaru's wife and Shobana will not say that, look, I fed them. She will not say that. You know what she says? They came hungry, so I have to feed them. No, can I send them hungry? That is the attitude. And for that attitude to happen, to think about God, just to think about God, you need God's grace. She has to put her hand on my head and say, but she has to put her hand on my head. Sometimes I think of her as Mahisha. Mahisha is the one who loved her so much, so much, so much beyond life. You have life. If you look at a time span, you have life, you have death. And in between you have love. Those of us who are lucky to have experienced, it can be love of anything, it can be love of an elephant, can be love of a dog, can be love of a human being. You see, can be love of a grandmother, can be love of a spouse, can be a love of a lover, can be love of a nephew, niece, whatever. It's there. So somehow my divinities are all extremely loving, understanding, not strict and non-negotiable. It's not like, okay, you come and sit here and you do so many prayers. See, then there are three ways to divinity. One is Jnana Marga. When you say that, okay, you think, maybe it's this, maybe it's this, maybe it's intellectual. The other is Kriya Margam. Kriya Margam is you keep on doing rituals, even if you don't know what you're doing. It's like I always say, because lots of people say, I don't know the meaning of the prayer, therefore I'm not saying it. You know that if you get fever, you take paracetamol, the fever comes down, right? Do you know the chemical formula and the reaction? You don't. But you do it, right? You take it. Prayer without knowing the meaning is exactly like that. You do it. Keep doing it. It's okay. You don't understand, but the person or the deity to which the prayers are addressed understands. Actually, Aditi, I would like you to come to Adi Kesava next time because now that you've been to Srirangam on your trip to India, on your lightning trip to India where you did 25 hours of work in 24 days, as far as I could make out. You should come to because Tamil Nadu today in India, Tamil Nadu is a state, probably the other states are going to scream, but Tamil Nadu today is a state where the temples are so many. And you have an immediacy in Tamil Bhakti. The Tamil people say, oh, you Kerala people are very clean, you have all the systems in place. Okay, which is true. Okay, but the Tamil people have that bhavana matra santushta hridayaye namah.
Deep, very deep. I mean, my experience in Ranganath was the devotion in Ranganath was very high of Tamil people. and I will think as an Adi Keshav's invitation to me through you. I will definitely come next trip to Adi Kesava Temple. I'll definitely go there. So one last question in this series,
Yes.
and we can ask more
Aditya,
later
please speak little louder because
on. One last question. One last question I
Yeah.
have. So when we say, like, the most of, you spoke about tantri, you spoke about that how the temple is a like all communities got involved in building the temple. And so one last question is that how do we have more people start coming to our temples?
getting more people to come to temples.
That's right.
See, there is a TV serial called Ramanand Sagas, if I'm not mistaken,
That's
right?
right. That's right. Yes.
Now, that drew more people to Ramayana than Valmiki's Ramayana. I'm sad to say this, okay, because we don't know Sanskrit, right? As a country, India is Sanskrit less. Okay, we are ignorant of Sanskrit. It's very, very, very sad.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
So then, how do you approach Valmiki's Ramayana? Because it's a story in an alien language which you don't understand. But Ramanand Saga's Ramayana, it's visual, okay. Like, Sri Raghuvar ko, Kamalanayana ko, Benao, Jamala, everybody sings, everybody understands. Now, there are two. Actually, I'll tell you one thing. Till the first point is that till the temple, any temple, is made the center of society, it's going to die out. There will always be some devotees who go to a temple. There will always be one set of people who are doing the rituals in the temple, but the disconnect with society has happened. And the disconnect with society has happened because the temple arts have been taken out of the temple. Okay. One of the biggest attractions of a temple was food, annadana. Okay. So for starving people, you could go to a temple and you were assured of a full stomach. Much like the langar of Sikhism. Actually, one of the most beautiful things about Sikhism is its practicality. Okay. And now, one thing is that, okay, Hindu society by and large, okay, does not have a social structure. You have parishes for Christians, you have mosques and yatim khanas and all those related things for Muslims. Actually, one of the most beautiful things which I've seen in North Kerala is during Ramzan. You should see it's not just for the sake of a press, or for the sake of a TV channel or press or something like that. The inclusivity of the Muslim community is something which we should learn from. Okay. And the third thing is education. We should have temples which are centers of education. Teach Sanskrit. You have Sunday school. Teach Sanskrit. Teach our epics in digestible ways. See, because I got introduced to, let's say, Hinduism or this religion because my great uncle, he used to tell me stories of Krishna. Stories of Krishna are so nice. Every kid will immediately identify with Krishna. It's very easy to identify with the baby Krishna. It's very easy to identify with Bhagavatam. It's much tougher to identify with Bhagavad Gita. To sort of identify yourself, or even make yourself familiar with Bhagavad Gita, you have to reach a certain stage. Even Arjuna was told the Bhagavad Gita, or was taught the Bhagavad Gita only when Arjuna was in such a position in his life. It did not happen when he was a young Pandava fighting with the young Kauravas. So it is much easier. It's much easier if you introduce babies and children to our religion. Much easier. One of the simple things which I keep telling people who have newborn babies. So in Kerala there is something called the 28th day after birth. Okay, that is your star comes. Your birth star comes for the first time, and then you tie you tie threads to ward off the evil eye, etc., etc. So from the time the child is 28 days old, now technology is much advanced. Please put shlokas like the Vishnu Sahasranama, put the Devi, put the Saundarya Lahari, put the Shivananda Lahari, which is so beautiful. You forget about the rest of it. You just take the literature. It's so beautiful. Okay, people are scared to do Mahishasura Mardini because there's a lot of conflict. Don't. There are such a lot of gentle Devi. Do a Saraswati Vandana, but put it in a room where your child sleeps. The child will sleep. It will not listen to it, but this whole thing will go in. I know children of when I went to Naina Devi. Okay, I found this family of about 27, 28 people. Father's elder brother, two children. They were all reciting the 100 shlokas of the Saundarya Lahari. The youngest was about 4.5, baby girl. So I asked them, how do you manage it? So they said, every day we recite the Saundarya Lahari in our house and everybody listens. The children pick up. So that now, unfortunately, when the parents have no time and no interest, and the nuclear family system is coming in, because joint family system it's breaking. Otherwise, see, it is always uncles and great grandparents and great uncles and great aunts who have the time and the leisure and the talent for saying things in such a way that the child is attracted. So first thing, to get people to temples, these people have to be aware of the greatness of temples, the validity of temples. Why are temples there? Not even, like there's no point in going, mother says, okay, it's your birthday, come, get up, go have a bath, go to the temple. Acha, just because somebody is eating your head, you go and stand there in the deity half asleep, you take the prasad and you go home, you put the tika on your forehead, you eat whatever bhog is there and you go. There's no connect. So unless there is a connect which is built up from the time this child is extreme, and please remember, a 28-day-old baby cannot get up and switch off your music system. He or she can do that when she's 15. She'll say, I don't want to listen to this mumbo jumbo. I want to listen to South Korean music. That's a wow. South Korean bands are wow. So then equip them. By the time they are 5, equip them with this. So that they like it's like a field. You have to get the field ready for cultivation. Do that painlessly. Don't lecture, because the moment you say you have to do something, you lost the kid. And somebody tells me you have to do something, I'm like, no. I mean, then you'll have to do 10 times more convincing. Because you just say that it's there, it's nice. See? So unless we have to. There's no shortcut. There is no other way. We have to educate. We have to bring the temple and the education and the food, the annadanam, let people go out and, let them cultivate. Make it temple-centric. See, most of the things which they say is, you don't do this because then God will get angry with you. That's a very surefire way of stopping somebody in the tracks. If you say it's bad for you, maybe. So unless you make that connect, and it's not just that you make a connect with one person. I'm blessed because my ancestors have connected me. You are connected, Aditya. So many people are, more people are connected than you would imagine. You look at the press, it's like, oh, Hindus are dying, Hindu dharma is dying. You see, So what kind of Hindu are you? Are you a confident Hindu? Do you think that your religion is good? You think that your religion will survive? Or you think no? It survived for so long, it's still living. Okay, this temple is at least 5,000, 10,000 years old.
That's right.
I rest my case, Aditya.
Yeah, you are. Actually, people like you and me and people like us, only we are very optimistic about Sanatan Dharma. But the media and all these, so-called people who have no information about Sanatan Dharma, they feel that Sanatan Dharma will ever die. They will die because Sanatan Dharma is going to survive. It survived from the first day of Brahma till now, to the end of the day of Brahma and next day of Brahma, because Brahma himself is controlling it. So everyone else has to vanish. Asura has to go, but the Sura is going to stay. So thank you so much, Mata, and for coming on the show. And for people who are watching this show, start making the temples, making your center of attraction instead of shopping malls. For once, if you go to shopping malls 4 times a month, reduce it to twice. And 2 times you take your family to the nearest temple that you have, wherever you are. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and namaste. And I'm going to share all those video clippings as part of the video later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya. Namaste.
Namaste.